What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? I wish I was talking to you right now after a win. The Niners going to the NFC Championship, but I'm not. It was a big loss. It was a brutal loss. I'm so upset, but we got to do this. We got to talk about it. And I got two great guests with me today. I got my boy Rohan. I got my man Smitty from the Fantasy Football Show. I'm going to drop the intro, and we're going to get right into it. So yeah, I watched that. I just watched that intro, and I'm instantly sad because it's been a
Yeah.
phenomenal season, great year, 3-4. You lost two quarterbacks. Here comes Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, and all the story was lining up. It was about to be the greatest story of all time. Then Brock Purdy gets hurt in the NFC Championship game. Are you kidding me? Like that was the story of our season. Quarterback injury, and then Josh Johnson comes in. The moment he came in, I was like, okay, this game's done. And then he got hurt. And then they had to put Brock Purdy back in there, who couldn't throw the ball because he had the elbow issue. And I was just listening to Kyle. He says that Brock told him he wasn't lobbying to go back to the game because he knew he couldn't throw. He was trying to test it out on the sideline. He couldn't throw, man. So your
Yeah.
backup quarterbacks at that point were Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Juszczyk. No matter how good your defense was going to play, you can't beat a team with 10 players without a quarterback. Rohan, you called it. I hate to say it. You called it. What do you got to say, man? I'm just literally sick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wanted the 49ers to win because obviously having the extra 2 weeks, seeing storylines, having this team covering this team in the Super Bowl, that would have been it would have been very fun. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I just think that there's a lot that you could say about it, but ultimately, this game, the 49ers didn't have a chance. As soon as Brock Purdy went down in that whatever 7-8 minute category in that first half, the game was over. Look, this is what I'll say: when you're down to your fourth string quarterback, I don't care who it is, you don't have a chance. Regardless, people can blame Josh Johnson all they want for this game. In my opinion, Josh Johnson, like the circumstance that he's put in, you're not supposed to succeed in that circumstance. Brock Purdy anomaly. He succeeded when he played. Obviously, coming off the bench in Miami, that's the anomaly. That's not the norm. Backup quarterbacks, there are backup quarterbacks. And it's unfortunate because the 49ers now are left with a couple of questions. This is one of them. How do they figure out the roster? How do they figure out their salary cap? Especially with Nick Bosa commanding a high salary for his extension. How do they figure out coaching staff things? Because DeMeco Ryan seems like is the front runner and the likely odds-on favorite to become the next head coach for Houston. And do executives leave? What's the plan with John Lynch, Adam Peters? All of that. A lot of questions, but in the moment, unfortunate, especially because the 49ers didn't have a chance in this game.
Yeah, 100% agree. They didn't have a chance when Josh Johnson was in there. And now you're right. It opens the door to the offseason. There's so many questions. Somebody said that there's 25 free agents this year. That's a lot. They got to pay Nick Bosa. That's going to be an issue. Ayuk, and now you're left with the quarterback dilemma, which every single offseason, Rohan, there's a quarterback. I'm so tired of it. There's a couple comments
Oh man,
in there that said the O line was terrible. Like, is this O line? Is that why we got the injury? Like, what's your take on it? And then I want to get your take on it, Smitty, about this O line. What do you think, Rohan, on the O line? Because Michael Glitch did get mad a couple times.
Yeah. Offensive line, I don't know. Second straight NFC Championship game. Offensive line did not do great. Offensive line did not have the best performance, and it was a part of it. The Purdy injury, I know a lot of people are going to blame the way the 49ers schemed it up. Tyler Kroft should never be on Hassan Reddick. That's a schematic mistake. That's a mistake by the 49ers. However, Brock Purdy has to step up in the pocket there. He has this tendency that I've been talking about with you and on other shows. He has the tendency to bail left. He does. He has the tendency to bail left instead of stepping up in the pocket when it's available because he trusts his mobility a lot and he he panics at times. And unfortunately, with the window there, Purdy did not step up in the pocket and make the throw because that's what you got to do when these plays take a lot of time. You've got to step up in the pocket, create some time, and make that throw. Purdy unfortunately didn't, and it's just a really, really unfortunate injury there with the way that it is. A freak injury, really unfortunate, and really unfortunate for Brock Purdy because he might have to have surgery now after the year that he had. Just creates, like you said, more questions for the 49ers.
Yeah, they said that he's going to have MRIs tomorrow, and he might get off-season surgery. Like, that would be an ultimate blow. And then it puts you back into a situation of, is it going to be a battle between Trey and Brock Purdy? And then there's going to be rumors of other quarterbacks. Smitty, how are we feeling tonight? How are we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this went the way I thought it would go. And I was, obviously rooting for Jalen Hurts because I'm a big Jalen Hurts believer and supporter. But like, I was also rooting for you guys because I always try and support you guys the best I can. But I don't trust Kyle. At what point does Kyle start getting put on the hot seat? Because it seems like the Niner fan base is divided on that. You're going to have half the people, especially on Twitter. Twitter's more so in favor of Shanahan, getting fired than I would say like Instagram or YouTube. Like there's different communities that have different feelings on it. But at what point does he take accountability? And at the same time, I agree with what some of Rohan said about, the game was over right before it started. But at the same time, and I was telling everybody you should bench Jimmy when he was playing well, put Brock Purdy in because Brock Purdy would win you more games. So this is coming from somebody that really liked Purdy in the spot you guys were in, weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks ago. But Brock Purdy's not this team is so good. Brock Purdy's playing at a level that he wouldn't on any other team. I'm not saying Brock couldn't develop, Brock wouldn't become the guy, Brock couldn't become a top 10 quarterback or something like that. I'm not saying that. But I believe you guys do have the defense that's good enough to maybe pull off a win against this Eagles team with Johnson in there. I don't think it was like over. I think your defense is that good. Your defense sold in a lot of ways in this game by giving up penalty after penalty, by surrendering opportunity after opportunity to the Eagles. The defense deserves a lot of blame for this loss. There was a lot of opportunities that the Eagles shouldn't have had that the defense put the Eagles in a position, to capitalize on. But I think ultimately, if it's up to me, and I can't stay too long because I got to watch this Bengal game, but I would say Tom Brady is the answer. Tom Brady's the answer. I think Tom Brady, there's a strong shot. He is a 49er in 2023. Kyle Shanahan should have allowed Tom Brady to grace this roster back when he said that Jimmy G was just barely marginally lesser than Tom Brady. And Tom Brady went on to win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Tom Brady wants to play in San Francisco. There's all the video footage of him just, taking pictures, everything. He's like a kid in a candy store when he's around that stadium. He wants to be a Niner. And I know Rohan said that the money's an issue, but he'll probably be pretty friendly with how he structures whatever he's got to structure. Not to mention money can get moved around. Aaron Rodgers signed one of the bigger contracts in the NFL history for a quarterback, and they were under the cap they were over the cap when he signed that deal. You can move money around all over the place. Not to mention, doesn't the cap increase by how much this year?
It increases. It increases.
Yeah. So
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, money can be moved. It's all just it's accounting. It's accounting. You can move money. Bringing in Tom Brady financially would be zero problem in my mind. What it comes down to is, will Shanahan do it? Will Shanahan be bold enough, or will he be stubborn and say, I don't want Brady on my roster? I don't know what it is about Shanahan with this whole idea of Brady. Was it that he didn't want a player on the team that knew more than him? Like, part of me thinks it's his stubbornness, his ego got in the way of that. And it's like, if Brady lands on this roster, look, you guys were the fourth best, or you could argue third best, however you want to argue this, best team in the NFL. You made it to the Final Four. Like, you guys had an amazing run. You won 11 games with McCaffrey in the lineup. Absolutely phenomenal run. Like, there shouldn't be, the Niners failed. You guys had a great season. But I think that Shanahan's in the way. I think he's a great offensive mind and coordinator, but his coaching decisions get in the way. Name coaching decisions he did in the offseason that weren't debacles. From how he handled the Jimmy G non-trade to how he handled Jimmy G saying goodbye to how he handled Jimmy G coming back onto the roster, getting the playbook late, how he ran Trey Lance up the gut like he's Derrick Henry, how he handled the Deebo Samuel signing and creating animosity between Deebo and the fan base. When does Kyle Shanahan come into question? Like, how many times is this going to happen? You know,
Smitty, I know. So a couple things there, and you're right. There was a lot of questionable things today. Like, but at this point, there's no way they were winning with Josh Johnson. Like, no disrespect to Josh Johnson. There's a reason why he's been on so many, 13 teams, a journeyman. He's not even a backup, the QB2, man. Like, once he got in there, it, to me, was, like, going to be a miracle. The Niners kept it close. Your defense could only do so much. They were frustrated. The penalties mounted. Like Rohan said, man, this guy, he just wasn't able to be that guy that gave them what they needed, you know. And Brock Purdy is it's a testament to him because he was a special type of guy. That's an anomaly. Nobody comes in like Brock Purdy as a QB3 and takes this team to the NFC Championship the way he did. And, you know, with him not being able to throw, Josh Johnson in there, bad quarterback. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of rumors this offseason with Tom Brady to the Niners. Like, 100%, it's the offseason, smoke season. We're going to see it. It's a possibility. I'm not going to say it's not. But at the same time, Smitty, if they get Tom Brady, they're going to need to upgrade that O-line because he's great, but he needs to be protected, especially at his age now. He's not going to be Tom Brady of 15, 20 years ago. He needs an O-line. That right side was so bad today. And there's somebody in the chat that said if Devonta Smith's play got challenged, you know, by Kyle Shanahan, that Brock Purdy play probably doesn't happen. And you're probably right. So that questionable challenge was huge. That to me was basically the game changer. When you don't challenge a play like that, because they rushed. They knew it. We got to get to the line. We got to call this play. And they scored a touchdown. That was a 4th down play. And you don't challenge it. To me, that was the game-changing play. And it was as soon as the game basically started. You have to challenge that. It's a big-time game. You have to
another coaching mistake. Can I say one more thing? And then I'll let Rohan try and tear down everything I said. But I would say this is what I told Raj. And this is what I said on my YouTube all week. This is what I said on Raj's show, that how fickle, and it's understandable on both sides. I'm not even trying to give my opinion here. I'm just merely speaking facts on how it would play out. I said on Raj's show on my YouTube over and over and over all week, if the Niners won this game, regardless of how good or mediocre Brock played, there'd be a statue being created of Brock Purdy outside the stadium nearly the next day. If the team lost this game, if he got worked over by the Eagles, whatever the case may be, the Niners lose the game, we would be almost talking about, from at least a 50% perspective in the fan base, that who's the quarterback next year. It's amazing what one game, it was a tipping point, teeter-tottering on one or the other. And I'm not saying my stance, I'm saying it's crazy how fickle and how one game can shape the future of a kid. Because if he won, even if you lost the Super Bowl, if he won, it would be Brock Purdy this, Brock Purdy that. Now it's Tom Brady this. And I agree, Tom Brady's going to be talked about. And I don't know that Tom Brady will be a Niner. I'm not predicting that that's 100% because predicting Shanahan is where I go wrong all the time. Any bet we lose, Raj, it's me trying to predict what Shanahan's going to do. So I'm not predicting it. But if I was in charge, I would make Tom Brady a serious option. And I know Tom Brady's going to want to do it because it's been his boyhood dream. So it comes down to Shanahan. Maybe John Lynch, who we think probably had more to do with the CMC trade. Maybe he forces it. Maybe Shanahan doesn't have control of that anymore. I don't know.
Okay. But before I say my Shanahan spiel, because I know the chat and I know Smitty's going to love it, I do want to say one thing unrelated. Kellen Moore just got let go.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's huge.
And then our boy Quinnen Williams, a star defensive tackle for the New York Jets, just tweeted out, "Now Bosa, see what I've been going through. No offense." Just took a shade at his quarterback because
Wow.
yeah, he deleted that. He deleted that quick. He said,
Wow.
Go get me Rodgers."
You don't want to get into trouble. Wow.
Oh boy. No, but talking about Kyle Shanahan, spending, I know you and I have differing takes. To me, Kyle Shanahan proved so much this year. I think he proved exactly why he's one of the best coaches, if not the top, like if not top five in the NFL at the moment. He's the coach of the year. To see what he did with this year, he came into this year. Okay, we'll talk about the offseason because I know you said there were some issues with the way that Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, that situation was handled. I agree, the way that it was handled. But was it a smart move to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back under the contract that he was given? Yeah, it was a smart move. Absolutely. It gives you, well, first, a Jimmy Garoppolo trade was not going to happen with surgery. Second of all, it wasn't going to happen unless you restructured his contract to a more friendly contract because no one's going to pay a quarterback $27 million at that point of the offseason. So a restructure and a new contract was going to happen regardless. Now to get him back, especially fans have been clamoring for that backup quarterback situation for this long, I think that it was a valuable move. And then to see how he had to scrap 75% of his playbook with the RPO system, with the deep ball passing game that he incorporated for Trey Lance, scrap that, change to Jimmy Garoppolo, start seeing success after the trade for Christian McCaffrey, and then continue forward with the 7th-round pick and the way that he did, I think that is a phenomenal job. It's unfortunate the 49ers did not have a chance to win this game. They would have had a chance had that quarterback been healthy. And talking about Brock Purdy itself, Brock Purdy, look, I don't care what fans think. That's just me. I don't really care what fans think. I care about how Brock Purdy has been playing. One game does not change the outlook of Brock Purdy. That last game did not change the outlook of Brock Purdy. What has changed the outlook of Brock Purdy? The body of work that you have seen for 7 games showing a consistent pattern of quarterback play. To me, that's the difference, and that's why fans shouldn't be upset about how Brock Purdy played even if he lost last week. I think that that's why you're hearing reports why he's the odds-on favorite to be the quarterback, regardless of what the outcome is, regardless of if he throws 12 interceptions. I remember I saw that tweet as well. Just because you've seen the body of work, Brock Purdy definitely benefits from the Kyle Shanahan system, undeniably. And Brock Purdy is not a top 10 quarterback. He has a long way to go, both in his decision-making and in the reads that he has, obviously limited with the arm strength. That's an issue as well. But when you talk about Brock Purdy, he benefits and also elevates the system more than any other quarterback has in prior years because of that mobility. Trey Lance, we didn't see the fullness of the mobility played enough. And so Brock Purdy, that's how he elevated this system. Now, of course, there are a lot more questions with 2 quarterbacks now facing some recovery time from their injuries going into the offseason. And that leads to the Tom Brady debate. To me personally, I don't think Tom Brady to the 49ers happens. I think that it is a realistic possibility. I think everything is on the table for the 49ers because that's how it should be. You should have all the options in your arsenal. But when you talk about the cap space and moving money around, there's one reason why the 49ers have seen the level of success that they've seen for the last 3 or 4 seasons. Why? It's because they don't make decisions based off that one player. They don't move money into the future and cost themselves in the future because they want to keep this level, this championship window extended. And that's why they see repeated success year on and year on and year on. And we've also seen that quarterback play when the quarterback play this year has been better than years before. That's why there was a reason we can go to the Super Bowl. That's why there's a reason the 49ers could win the Super Bowl, because we've now found quarterback play that can be sufficient enough to do that. And so to me, I think Tom Brady is out of the picture because of financial reasons, which is the same way that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to return to the 49ers, because not only do you have 25 free agents that you have to figure out, including Jimmy Ward, Charles Omenihu, Samson Ebukam, Emmanuel Mosley, Mike McGlinchey, I can go on and on. Not only do you have that to figure out, you have the extension to figure out, and you have to compile a roster with the limited cap space that you have and the limited draft picks that you have. That's my opinion on it.
So guys, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone of you. I mean, I know Raj and our 49ers pod and Rohan, I think you kind of hit it off, you kind of hit it off really well. I think the pieces are in place for the 49ers to be very good for a long time, and they need to be very smart financially moving forward. So Tom Brady is 100% out of the picture. I think it's a true competition between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance going into next year. I mean, you need to see what Trey Lance has. You need to. You cannot trade Trey Lance without really seeing his full potential, whether that's in training camp and a battle with Brock Purdy, like who brings out the best in whom. But like if they trade Trey Lance and Trey Lance becomes this monster, right? Like if he hits the ceiling that they think that he's going to hit, then I think the 49ers will rue the day that they did that. So I think you need to give the full you need to have that full competition experience, if that makes sense. I think what this season went to show is that Kyle Shanahan can win with a competent quarterback. I think, the pieces are in place. What Brock Purdy did is very, very, very impressive. And I want to take a step back. So I came into the conversation a little bit late. I called Raj on my ride home. I was like, Raj, it's like I need to vent to another 49er fan. Like, I need to talk to someone. And he's like, do you want to come on the live? And I haven't done a podcast in about a year, but like, I follow the 49ers very closely. I follow you guys very closely. So I'm like, let me throw my 2 cents. I think the one really important thing to kind of hammer home here is like, we need to kind of take care of our own. Jimmy Ward, I think, should be resigned. I mean, the guy's a dog. The guy played a hell of a game today. The 49ers didn't lose that game today, guys. Like, it's crazy, right? Like, it's, the score was what it was. But if you really kind of take a step back, like, I know we're talking off season and what the 49ers need to do, but the fact of the matter remains is Kyle Shanahan was essentially Russell Crowe in The Gladiator today. In that last scene of The Gladiator, Russell Crowe gets stabbed, and he's fighting essentially mortally wounded. Like, that was Kyle Shanahan in the second half. Like, if Brock Purdy plays that entire game, there's a strong chance the 49ers are in it, like, at the very end. So what I think needs to happen is I think you need to shore up the defensive line opposite Nick Bosa. I mean, I think Drake Jackson has a lot of potential. Him being inactive for the last few games is a little concerning, but again, it's like you kind of never know with Kyle Shanahan and who's in his doghouse. I mean, look at Ayuk a few years ago, right? Or last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was. Like, and he's popped off. But I mean, honestly, I would love to see like the money saved on not having to spend on a quarterback, maybe being spent on shoring up someone opposite of Bosa.
Yeah, no, 100%. I want to get to that real quick because that's something I've been thinking about. Nick Bosa is amazing. He's great, but he can't do everything on his own, man. That defensive line did not give him a lot of help today. Like, as much as I love this guy and this team and everything, the D-line got bodied out by that O-line. Like, the trenches were dominated by the Eagles. 100%. They cooked us in the O-line. And I think Drake's going to be a phenomenal player. He'll develop, but he's still very young. He didn't play for 5 games. So that tells me he's still developing. He's very raw. Whatever the case is, even if he's going to become a good player, they still need a premium edge rusher on the other side of Bosa. I'm not saying that Drake won't be, but they need to spend money on a flat-out star edge rusher. They need 2 stars. Develop Drake. They're going to lose somebody like Omenihu or Ebukam. You can't keep everybody. Like we said, 25 free agents. They got to figure that out. They need to keep this D-line. They need to make it even more robust because, look, today the trenches were the issue, and we could not get to Jalen Hurts at all times. There was a few times, and when we did, that's what benefited us. But with this offense not being able to get the ball moving, they got tired. They didn't really have that rotation that you needed to get up front, and that's what happened with us. Was the Eagles were putting pressure on us. Their D-line, obviously, the 70 sacks this season, they had big-time guys. We talked about it before the game, me and Rohan. 70 sacks, those guys all the starters had 10 sacks this season. That's what the Niners need to do. Like, we're going to have to play the Eagles again next year, maybe down the line in a big-time game. We got to get through that O-line, and it starts with that D-line. So I get it. Quarterback's going to be a big issue this offseason. I don't even want to think about it because there's so many things to think about. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, they're going to go.
Tom Brady's not coming. Tom Brady's not coming.
Competition, whatever the case is, but this D-line needs to be shored up, and they need to get somebody off that other side. Cornerback.
Raj, really quick. I mean, to Rohan and Smitty too. It's like when you guys saw that video of Joey Bosa wearing Niner gear, what's the first thing that kind of went through your mind? Like, would Nick take less money to bring his brother to the 49ers? I mean, probably not. Like, one could dream, right? Could you imagine those two playing together? How phenomenal would that be? And granted, pipe dream, I get it.
Hey, Raj, I got to jump. But last thing I'll say is that again, what I want to happen, what I believe will happen, all the other things in between are completely different things. Like what Rohan maps out for the quarterback situation, I don't disagree that Brock Purdy's got immense upside, but it doesn't mean that it's going to play out the way we think the Niners should play it out. So that's one thing I've learned with Shanahan is. Doesn't matter what we say. Like a lot of times I'd go arguing on the quad box about this and that when we first started. and I started to try and say what I felt should happen, and it didn't happen. And it wasn't that it was wrong; it was that I was trying to predict what Shanahan was going to do. But what I will say is, if the route is not to go Tom Brady, which I would take that route. That's me personally. But if you don't take that route, the route is to go in with Purdy and Trey Lance, because you will, in that situation, and I don't think the Niners would trade Trey. You're not going to get enough for him. A lot of teams, most teams thought it was a reach anyway, and now he's injured. It's like he's not going to have anywhere near the value Shanahan would require. But that's good, because if you go in with Purdy and Trey, you have two very cheap quarterbacks. You can build around that. Right. And honestly, you'd have one of the better quarterback situations in the NFL under the radar, because you firmly believed, as I did, and I still do, that Trey could be an elite quarterback in the right context and situation. So you have Purdy and Trey. It's almost like a top 10 fail-proof plan. Or is it? Or will they both get hurt? Like something's in the water there, because it's unbelievable. Like even when Bosa went down, I was like, oh my God, you know, and then he came back, and who knows what's going on with his knee, because he looked like he couldn't walk. And he went to the sideline. They probably injected that thing. Who knows what's going on with that? But bottom line is, I'll say this. I think as much as you guys don't, Rohan, and I'm sorry, what was your name, bro?
Tiago.
As much as Rohan and Tiago don't think Tom Brady's going to end up happening, it's 1,000% going to be a hot topic all offseason.
Oh, sure.
I agree.
And I think it's a viable option that will be strongly considered. If Shanahan has control, it won't happen. I agree with Rohan there. If Shanahan doesn't have control of this situation, and who knows what he has control of anymore, I don't know how that could change. Maybe it will change, maybe it won't. Then if it's up to John Lynch, there's a much higher likelihood of a Tom Brady to San Francisco situation happening. Aaron Rodgers will be talked about, not saying that's possible. There's trade compensation and a fat contract that go along with that. So Tom Brady is a different animal, because he's going to be able to go where he wants. It's not going to require the trade compensation, but it will 100% be a third of what everyone's projecting, talking about. What will be interesting, this last thing I'll say, and then I got to jump. What will be interesting is how Shanahan addresses the positioning of Brock Purdy. Will he put everything to bed early, or will he say, well, we're going to go ahead and see, and create more controversy, which a lot of people say is good. He's a good coach. He's not tipping his hand or whatever. Who cares? Like your quarterback does need that confidence. And I think if Shanahan was smart, he would put his weight behind Purdy if he thought Purdy was the guy, and say he's our starter, because that goes a long way.
There's not a chance that there's going to be any weight with these injuries. With the injuries, not a chance.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Predicting what Shanahan's going to do, very different than what should happen, in my opinion.
And real quick, Fitty, I want to say something. So this game, and you kind of touched on it earlier. So one game flipped the narrative, and we talked about that the other night, Smitty. That one game, if they lose this game, Brock doesn't have the game, and he got hurt. Now we are going to have questions all off season, and I said it the other night. I said, if the Niners lose, the next day, all the posts tomorrow is going to be, who's going to be the starting quarterback for the 49ers next season? Is it going to be Brock? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Like, people are ready with this content. Like, it's going to be there.
Yep.
And because Brock didn't have the game, because he got hurt, there's going to be questions, especially tomorrow. There's an MRI. It's going to open the door for those questions. So this injury was actually maybe good for Trey, because like Rohan says, this is the kind of guy, Brock, he showed all the potential. Maybe you build around him. But now, like Tiago said, is, okay, they did take Trey Lance with the number 3 pick. Like, there is a lot of potential. You have to see what you can get. They're not going to trade them. They have two quarterbacks on rookie contracts. We talked about all the players they need, Nick Bosa, everybody that needs to get paid. They got 2 quarterbacks. They're going to make them battle. And even if Kyle who he wants his quarterback, he's not going to tell us. He's so good at not telling us. So that's going to be the offseason.
And if you have Tom Brady, you guys are a top 6 team in the NFL.
Really?
If you have hold on. If you have Tom Brady, you're a top 6 team in the NFL. If you have Trey Lance and Purdy, you're a top 6 team in the NFL potentially. So it doesn't mean that one avenue is wrong, but I think there's certainly multiple avenues. You guys have a lot of talent. You did a lot of great things. Your defense is absolute fire. What happens with D'Amico? What happens with everything, staff wise? And there could be some bleeding out that you guys do, and you're gonna have to, patch some holes. But bottom line is your team is fire. You shouldn't take away from that just because you lost today. You're a top 4 team in the NFL. That's really hard to do. But I don't think there's a right or wrong answer either right now. So I think Niner fans should be open-minded to the Tom Brady conversations, just because, I mean, you could win that way. You could win that way. You could also win with Brock Purdy. You could probably also win with Trey Lance. I mean, there's a lot of avenues there. So,
Smitty, before you go, I kind of wanted to play devil's advocate for a second. I think the Niners won with Brock Purdy, and they won in an exciting fashion because of Brock Purdy's mobility and his escapability. Like, Brock Purdy made some plays with his feet and kept some plays alive that kept the Niners in some games. And, they added some yards with some plays and they made it exciting. I don't know if Tom Brady can move, man. Like, I really don't. And I at some point, age is going to catch up to Tom Brady, right? Like, and this is someone who, I mean, we should have probably had Tom Brady when he wanted to come the first time around. Right, like that. I think that's kind of said and done.
But you'd have Purdy too, though. You'd have because you're not getting rid of both quarterbacks. If Tom Brady failed, you could go right to Purdy, and not to mention, even if Purdy ends up going in there in week 4 or 5, Tom Brady.
Yeah, but you're not going to bench Tom Brady if he comes to the Niners.
No. But Tom Brady is what you said he is if he falls off or something. But like if you hit the pause button on Purdy right now, he didn't get the job. He came in off an injury. You wouldn't damage his progression. With Tom Brady coming in, you'd only enhance it. Like, it wouldn't be a bad move at all for his future to learn from Tom Brady. But last question for Raj, and then I got to go. Raj, are you at all on the fence about Shanahan? I know you have been.
Smitty, hold on real quick. Listen, I need to put that shit to bed because here we go. I know you're gonna throw this on Kyle. This is not on Kyle, bro. 3 NFC championships in 4 years. We had bad luck. We had fucking Josh. I'm sorry. I'm a little heated. The emotions are coming out. We had Josh Johnson playing quarterback tonight. That's not on Kyle, man.
That's crazy, dude.
You have kind of gone back and forth on Kyle a little bit.
I know, I did.
It's
but
a fair question.
Rohan
It's
said
a fair
it.
question.
Hold on. This is my channel. Smitty, respect the king real quick. Hold up. Rohan said it. He says Kyle has improved this year. He got us to the NFC Championship. It was discipline. The team fell apart. The flags, the penalties, the offense, the defense was getting. And listen, someone just said, Drew says, look, we're wasting prime years of Warner, Bosa, Diva, blah, blah, blah. This defense fell apart too when you don't have offense. They mentally broke down. They could not take away the momentum. The Devonta Smith play broke them. They should have challenged it. Okay, I will never forget that moment because they should have challenged it. But listen, the real issue this offseason, not quarterback, not coaching, nothing, is DeMeco Ryans. He's just set to become the Texans' next head coach if everything goes well this weekend, right? This week. He's going to interview with them. He's going to become the Texans' head coach, 90% chance. Who the hell is going to be our defensive coordinator? That city is the real question. It's not Kyle. I got respect for Kyle. He put this team to 3 NFC championships. I know in the past I've been critical of him, but tonight there will be no Kyle Shanahan slander on my watch.
Well, it was a fair question to ask because you have been on the fence at times this season. So that's all I'm asking, and it sounds like you're not. So that's good.
Not tonight.
That's good. All 3 of you are for him. I'm not, but
really, Smitty?
Of course
that's
not.
Crazy, dude. Of course not. Hold on. And by the way, I've watched your lives with Raj, so I respect your takes, dude. I think you're very knowledgeable of the game. You're not on the Kyle Shanahan train?
No.
After what he did this season?
I'm not on the Kyle Shanahan train. I think he's an amazing. I think where people get confused, in my opinion, he's an amazing offensive coordinator. He's a great scheme. He's got a great scheme. He's a top offensive coordinator, top offensive mind in the NFL. But when it comes down to head coaching decisions, he's a debacle after debacle. How? Explain to me how the Deebo Samuel situation wasn't a debacle. How waiting to sign him, creating so much animosity between him and the fan base was even necessary. Talk about the Jimmy G non-trade.
That's all in
the whole entire offseason was a complete misstep and debacle.
Smitty, I think it's time for you to say as you're going and leave the show.
Yeah, I think you need to say your goodbye.
I mean, because you guys, if you can't handle it, that's fine.
No, stay for a second. I always appreciate the dialogue anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, it's as clear as day. And look in the comments. You're going to see a lot of people that are going to say, "Oh, Shanahan's not the problem." But how many people agree with me? How many times go on Niner Twitter and see if 65-70% of people don't agree that Kyle Shanahan's a problem? Like, this is not a new revelation. This isn't me coming, like, you act like this is a hot take that you've never heard before in your life, bro. They talk about this on 49ers all day long.
hold on, Smitty, 100%, because you said all season, oh, Mike McDaniel, he's better than Kyle. He's the wizard. Where the fuck is Mike McDaniel right now? He's sitting on the couch just like us, but he got his season ended a long time early.
Hey, Smitty.
A lot of third quarterback in he took Mr. Irrelevant to the NFC Championship. The reason the Niners lost, they had 10 players on offense today. You had Josh Johnson. Bro, Josh Johnson was our quarterback today. That's why we lost.
The OC,
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. This is the discrepancy that everybody doesn't understand about my stance. The OC, Kyle Shanahan, did these things. There's a big difference. He's not a good head coach. He's a great offensive coordinator. And when things are going good, you can point it all to the offensive coordinator in him. I'm not saying that he isn't a good offensive mind. But if anybody thinks that giving Deebo Samuel one touch in the NFC Championship game last year was a good idea, let me know. Raise your hand. If anybody thinks the way he handled the entire offseason was great, raise your hand.
What we're talking about?
Really?
Running
Trey Lance up the gut like he's a fullback, was that a good idea?
Okay, fair. That is a fair criticism, bro. That is a fair criticism.
No, that ain't fair. That ain't fair.
How is that not fair? It's not challenging that play on fourth down today.
I've said a lot about the Trey Lance stuff. I mean, look, if you're talking about that, when you talk about Trey Lance, you got to incorporate the entirety of his skill set.
Sure.
Everybody talks about zone
You're right.
read. You have to talk about how offenses are also expanding in the NFL right now. You've seen the amount of power run, and you've seen the amount of run up the middle, really from quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, and all these other guys. First of all, Trey Lance in that game was injured on the third run of that day. Second of all, it's the second start of 2022, after which the first start, he was forced to run more because of the way that the game was played. When you look at the one start that we've seen from Trey Lance, where really he's had an actual game plan incorporated for him, because in Arizona, he had an injury to his throwing finger, which really impacted his accuracy. It's the Houston game. How did Kyle Shanahan go in the Houston game? Gave Trey Lance 2 really quick runs in the first half. Because of that, you have the run that sets up the pass. Then the 49ers start utilizing the pass a lot more, and Trey Lance overall had 6 runs in that game, of which 4 are designs. 4 designed runs per game for a quarterback with his skill set is totally fine. It was going to be that exact same game plan in the Seattle game. We saw it with the way that Jimmy Garoppolo had 4 straight play action passes after that for 70 yards on the next drive and continued forward. That's the new point. That's why the 49ers drafted Trey Lance. And so to blame him specifically on that day after his 3rd run, I think I don't think
Rohan,
that's real fair analysis.
Rohan, right before on that same game, right before the clock ran out going into halftime, you were running the clock out. There were 2 plays. The second to the last play, he ran Deebo Samuel, I believe, up the A gap to run timeout. This guy runs his players.
What game are you talking about? I'm sorry.
The same, I believe it was the same game that Trey Lance got injured. Right before the half, He ran Deebo Samuel up the gut to run timeout. So I understand.
You know why? Can I say why? Look,
sure.
And that one specifically, I do have an issue with. I know what play you're talking about. But the reason that you do it, I personally wouldn't do it. But I can understand why you do it with the amount of explosive playability that Deebo Samuel has created. Also, go back and look at that play. I can be corrected if I'm wrong. Go back and look at that play. I believe Deebo Samuel takes an inside angle on a potential outside run. An outside zone run, what's the best way for the 49ers to create an explosive play? Put the ball in Deebo Samuel's hand and give it to him in space.
Not up the gut, though.
If he chooses to take it up the gut, he chooses to take it up the gut. That's the angle that he chooses to take it up.
That's not where he's explosive from. He's explosive when you give him the ball.
Deebo Samuel up the gut Deebo Samuel up the gut. We saw it today. Because he can break tackles, he powers through. You can get more yards out of that.
You've got Mitchell.
Deebo Samuel anywhere is explosive.
But
exactly.
That's how you're going to get him hurt. That's how you're going to get him hurt.
That's how you're going to.
And we did not. Hey! We did not have Mitchell in that game. Mitchell was out in week 1. We did not have Mitchell in week 2. Deebo Samuel was our most explosive player. Jordan Mason was not ready at that moment. We clearly saw it.
There were RBs on the roster. I don't remember what exact game it was. So. I'm not. I don't.
Yeah, our running back was Jeff Wilson Jr., a guy who wasn't explosive and was the reason the 49ers
giving him a carry up the gut to run timeout wasn't a wise move, and it's
one play.
Why are you
pattern?
No, it's a pattern.
Play as a reason to downplay Kyle Shanahan when you've seen the body of work he's done this year to really further himself as a head coordinator.
as
As
an
a head
offensive
coach.
coordinator.
Look at the
As an
leadership.
offensive coordinator.
When you talk about head coaches,
Spicy tonight.
the number,
Timeout.
the number one,
But
the
it's all
number,
good. It's all good at Spicy's. Like let
No,
it be
it's
spicy.
good.
It should
Yeah,
be
because
no,
I
spicy.
totally respect Smitty and his takes because he's standing on it,
Oh,
and that's
yeah.
what I respect
Yeah.
the most. I respect when you back up what you're talking about, and that's why I respect Smitty. But when you talk about head coaches, the number one things you need, well, expertise at what you do, which Kyle Shanahan is he's the best in terms of that offensive mind. Maybe him, Sirianni, Andy Reid up there. But when you talk about leadership, Kyle Shanahan is revered by his players. There's a reason that everybody comes to San Francisco and says, man, this is the best place that I've played. There's a reason that free agents want to come to San Francisco because of Kyle Shanahan and because of the culture that he has instilled with the 49ers. That's a very important part of a head coach when you talk about
What
that.
do you
Are there
attribute?
questionable? Yeah, go for
What
it.
do you attribute the injuries to? The overwhelming injuries that the Niners face year in
There
and
are
year out.
certainly things that you have to talk about. But again, I think that that's another thing that you saw improve this
But
year.
what do you
Don't you think?
attribute them to? What do
I'm
you?
sure it's. I'm sure there are
Football.
a lot of things. You
No,
talk
it's
about
it's not football. It's overwhelming, bro. It's overwhelming.
I
You had
mean-
your
I
foot.
mean,
You had your
Smitty.
foot. You were on your fifth string quarterback tonight, who was your
All
third
right,
string
well,
quarterback.
Okay, fine. That's fine. We're on our fifth string quarterback.
And
But
that's why we love him.
okay, so hold on for a
The
second.
49ers are a
Jimmy
physical
Garoppolo-
football team.
Ron, can I come in real quick? Let me
Go
come in real
for
quick. Jimmy Garoppolo got his fucking foot, excuse my language, got his foot shattered on a scramble. Okay, freak play. Trey Lance, you could argue, was run up the gut by Kyle, and that's what I was trying to say before. So if you wanted to blame Kyle for something, you can kind of have an argument there. You kind of could. Okay, Brock Purdy was hurt throwing the ball as someone came in and hit him as he was throwing the ball.
I'm not saying
so
every injury.
That's not training staff. That's not Kyle Shanahan. Because here's the thing: I can counter argue you and say Christian McCaffrey, who came in midseason, who has a history of injuries, had Kyle Shanahan been like the person to grind people down, and like that's kind of been like a criticism of him, right? Like one could argue that Christian McCaffrey wouldn't have lasted 4 games in the Niners, and he's played all season.
He's been banged up, but he's been banged up all
He's played
year.
all season though, and
Partly because this man,
he had a hell of a game today.
Partly because this man takes his body into his own hands and he trains like he does.
I mean,
He's phenomenal with taking care of himself. So like there was thought that if anybody could stay healthy in the system, it would probably be McCaffrey because he's so good at taking care of his body and stuff. But anyways,
hold up. When PNC came to this team, that was what the media was saying. He's going to get injured. He's not, he can't stay healthy in Kyle's system and da-da-da-da. You guys, Tiago's right. He stayed healthy. I mean, he had some calf issues, some soreness. That's football. He was healthy. And I want to say this because you're throwing the injuries out. And the Niners were actually the healthiest they've been in a long time. This was a very healthy football team. Rohan said it. A lot of people in the comments were like, they improved in injuries. The Niners did improve in injuries this year. Like, yes, Emmanuel Mosley injury was tragic. That was the worst of the season. But for the most part, today, everybody was basically healthy. Trent Williams last year was banged up in this game in the NFC Championship. Today, Elijah Mitchell was the big injury. Yeah. That was a big injury to me. That definitely hurt, but it doesn't matter when you lose your quarterback. And that, to me, it's just bad luck. Sometimes you get bad.
Yeah, agreed.
It was bad luck. I mean, Mike
McGlinchey. But
Smitty,
I do agree with you, though. And that's a place you do need to still improve.
Yeah,
but
I
continue,
agree.
Raj?
I'm just trying to find out what's the root. If it's not Shanahan, someone tell me what it is because it's astronomically higher.
Jaquiski Tartt talked a little bit about it, and this was something that surprised me because I was at training camp this year. He said that the 49ers practice a little more than the Eagles. The Eagles actually give a little more rest and preparation. And it seems like Shanahan has tried to alter a couple of things. He fired the strength and conditioning coach back in 2019 and hired Drew Peterson and a new staff. He's tried to do different things, it seems. Back in 2019, he did that. It seems like he's also trying to alter the way that practices can be made. But overall, I mean, that's a good question. It is a good question.
Yeah.
All right, fellas.
That it's not a bad.
Smitty, it's a pleasure, dude. It's a pleasure.
Hey, real quick.
I always.
Before you leave, Smitty, we love you, man. Why? It's just
no.
heated tonight because we lost, and we got to take it out on somebody.
I know. I'll take it for the team here. I understand. You want to line up and punch me right in the gut once or twice. I'm fine with it because I would be upset too. But
it's all love. I got to cope somehow. So,
get ready for a whole bunch of Tom Brady rumors. A lot of them coming from me later.
Yeah, I love you. Oh,
hey, boys, look, I think if we were to take a big step back, like just talking about the game, I think Niner fans should not hang their heads today. They really shouldn't. It's a loss. It sucks. Like you get this far, and like I was talking to a few buddies of mine, my buddy Mott, my buddy Craig, and they're big Niner fans. I got to shout them out, but like, and I said, hey, I'm a nervous wreck today because the window closes. Right at some point, the window closes. Right, like we've all seen the Harbaugh window close, and you get to the Chip Kelly, Tom Sula era. I think if the Niners play it right, the window doesn't close. I mean, they have two very good quarterbacks, capable quarterbacks, right? Trey Lance, we don't know what his ceiling is, right? I mean, we're kind of on the potential train with Trey Lance. We've kind of seen what Brock Purdy could do in the Kyle Shanahan offense. I think now is the time you build around those two guys. And may the best man win. Like, guys, the 49ers didn't lose that game today. I think that I've been saying it. I've said it to people today. That game says more about the Eagles than it says about the Niners. That game should have been 50-something to 7. The Niners were playing with a quarterback that couldn't throw in the second half, guys. Like I'm proud of the defense. I know it's a 31-point game, but I'm proud of that defense. Had Brock Purdy played the entire game, the Niners win. I am fully confident that the Niners go into the fourth quarter with a chance to win had Brock Purdy played the entire game and not gotten hurt. So I think, like, look, instant reactions, great. Everyone's like upset, and we all should be upset. It's a long season. It takes a lot to get here. We invest a lot of our time, a lot of our effort, like, right? Like we watch games, we create content, we do a certain, a lot of time goes into this. But I think if you look at the 49ers from like a 500-foot lens, from like, a macro lens, we're in good shape. Like the Niners didn't lose that game today. The Niners got hurt. Kyle Shanahan was playing with one arm. You can't win that game. So, I mean, yeah, like we can talk about Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not coming. Like, not happening. Like, there's a lot more things we need to do as a team to shore up kind of, the team in general, but we're in good shape.
Rohan, what say you?
I like one point that you brought up, and I want to hammer it on. You talked about the defense. I actually really like that point in one specific phase. Earlier this week, I know I predicted the Eagles, but I said there are certain ways with Raj that the 49ers can win this matchup. And one of those ways was the defensive scheme that DeMeco Ryans incorporated. That was going to be the ultimate deciding factor, because if the Philadelphia Eagles, if that offense could be stopped in the 49ers, I think that the 49ers would have had I think Kyle Shanahan would have had a good game plan in this game. It should have, obviously the quarterbacks have been healthy. But when you talk about the defensive game plan, the one part that I really liked was the passing game. They limited Jalen Hurts to 15 of 25, 125, I think, passing yards. Phenomenal. But the big part about it is not the statistics, it's actually the game plan. It really wasn't like Jalen Hurts was missing too much. It was, he missed one big touchdown, but when you talk about it, DeMeco Ryans let his cornerbacks be aggressive. Yeah. They didn't play the soft coverage that was going to be an issue, because the Philadelphia Eagles, you give them dink and dunk, they're going to have the dink and dunk. I didn't really mind the pass rush situation, because obviously the Eagles were 49ers were so afraid that about Jalen Hurts and his rushing ability, that they didn't crash in on the pocket so that Jalen Hurts could flush out to the outside. You saw the edge rushers, instead of trying to get those hustle sacks and get those sacks after extended plays, they tried to stay on the edge, force Jalen Hurts to win from the pocket. That was their goal, and that's why you didn't see the pressure numbers or the sack numbers that you normally see. And so with that strategy, what do you need? You needed great defense, and you needed good coverage. The way to hold up, you got to play man coverage, and that's what you saw from Charvarius Ward and Deommodore Lenoir. That's why you didn't see many big gains being given up, some phenomenal plays. And obviously the one big gain was an incomplete pass that we found out from Devontae Smith. It was a great game plan from DeMeco Ryans in that front. Now, in the run game, I did have some questions, not with the game plan, but with execution. I thought, obviously, you still have to respect Jalen Hurts with the RPO. So all the linebackers are going to be a second late, because they have to wait for that decision. I thought Dre Greenlaw probably had his worst game, maybe in his career. I know it's comparable to that week 1 game where he just took bad angles. He just consistently took bad angles on the 2 touchdowns. He took bad angles, 2 obviously penalties that were unnecessary. Second one questionable, but still unnecessary. Just a bad game overall from Dre Greenlaw. And I think the Eagles just really had their way in the running game. Even if the statistics don't show it, they figured it out after an early slump. And that's where you might pose questions, but a great game plan against the air for DeMeco Ryans, which would have given the 49ers a chance had they had the chance.
And Rohan, like again, taking a step back, like had those penalties again. We're in the what if game now, right? But like, had those penalties not been called, like it's not like the Eagles marched down the field organically and sliced and diced and surgically kind of just cut through the Niners defense. Like the Niners defense could have easily won that game for the team. And I think taking the step back and just kind of analyzing the team moving forward, the pieces are in place. You have a lot of guys under contract. The core guys are under contract for the next few years. One could argue the Niners window is probably about 3 to 4 years, right? I mean, like it's all dependent on the quarterback position and how that develops. Kittle is still under 30. Bosa is going to get re-signed. Warner's under 30. Trent, you feel like he's going to play till he's 36, 37, 38. Like it just feels that way. You kind of got to figure out what to do with McGlinchey, to be honest, right? Like is there a better player than McGlinchey out there in free agency or the draft? I mean, the draft not really because the Niners on picks. Yeah. But like Travarius Ward's having the next few years. You bring back Jimmy Ward, who Funga's a player, albeit sometimes he gets beat. Like Greenlaw's re-signed. Like you have good players, and we all know that the defensive line gets restocked year after year because Chris Kaserik just knows how to nurture players and knows how to coach players.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, in short, the team's in good position. We have a good quarterback situation, and I would just again love to see a guy opposite Nick Bosa.
No, I agree.
I would love to see them go just get a dude.
I want them to take the money, whatever. If they get extra money this year, they need to make a big impact player. Again, I love Drake. I think he's going to develop, but you still.
I think so too, Raj. You're right.
Robust D line, and you guys made a lot of good points. You said there's a lot of players we got to refocus on. Again, we're in the off season now. I hate it.
It sucks, dude. It sucks.
About to be wild. We sat here for 20, 30 minutes talking about all the crazy rumors that's going to happen. I get it. But I want to go back, take a step back. Rohan made some good comments on this game. The defense did play well for some stretches, you know, Lenore and Charvarius Ward, they played good, man, because all week we were worried about Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Were they going to make big plays? They didn't really make big plays. The biggest play Devonta Smith had should have been reviewed. And I think that, again, was the turning point. You review that play, they don't score a touchdown, whole different ball game. And then going back to the Eagles, they were kind of stifled at many times with that RPO. And you know, they were playing good. I want to say Greenlaw, I love this guy, but today he was just a little too aggressive. Actually, a lot of aggressive. It was too much, man. And those penalties, you know, it just shows that maybe they weren't disciplined. Maybe they were too hyped up for this game. I don't think they were nervous. I think they were over anxious, like too hyped up, because when you make that many tic-tac penalties, it shows you're just very hyped.
Hey, that boy Trent, he got hot at the end.
I mean, like at that point, I think everyone got hot for Trent. You know what I mean? They're like, yo, let's do it. Like,
but at
might
that
as well
point,
just throw someone.
They reached a boiling point. At that point, it was like, all right, tempers are done. But before that, because you said one thing, Tiago, that really resonated with me, and I said this earlier in the game when I was watching it. They were 7-7 at one point. Like, regardless, Trey goes down, or not Trey, Brock goes down. It's still 7-7. CMC put the team on his back. They got momentum. They still had a chance, and then 3 penalties. Boom, 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 and they scored a touchdown on that drive, 14-7. And then again, the turnover with Josh Johnson botched the snap. That right there was the game. Because, again, what did we talk about before the week leading up to this, Rohan? Turnovers, you can't lose the turnover battle, and they did. What else did we say? You have to play smart football, and they did it. And one thing I said—
yeah, that was the big thing, discipline.
One thing was discipline, and one thing I said earlier this week is the only team that could beat the 49ers is the San Francisco 49ers. What I mean by they shoot themselves in the foot. Look at some of the games earlier this season, and you see the same mistakes. Dre Greenlaw making some crazy plays, aggressive, making penalties. You know, that Chicago game, he had some penalties. You know, and things like that. The safety, pick 8, you know, and against Denver. Like, those kind of moments, they came back today and bit them in the ass. It's like all year on that 12-game win streak, you didn't have any of that shit. And then tonight, you had all those weird plays coming up, and then the crazy injury. It's like a magical run. And then, and again, I don't want to pick on Josh Johnson, but boy, he sucks, man. He sucks. I'm sick, bro. I was sick when I saw Josh Johnson. Come on.
Raj, you're watching that game, and he takes a snap, and the first snap he takes, you're like, holy shit, we're in for it. And I looked at my buddy Mop, and I go, Mop. We call him Mop because he had big hair and he has like a moppy kind of hair. So like I go Mop, I'm like, the defense has to score touchdowns for us. I'm like, it's going to be a defense. It's going to be a defensive game. Like, there's going to be turnovers, interceptions. Like, we're going to need that. And the fact, dude, the defense kept the Niners in the game. And then the dam just broke. And it's funny. Like, you kind of like, you think about the Rams game last year, and you're really heartbroken at that game. Like, you leave that game when they lose. Like, and you're like, you can't sleep at night as a fan. You're like, fuck, that sucks. Today is a little bit different. Today is more so like you just couldn't win. You couldn't win. Like, I personally feel like I went to college with a bunch of Eagles fans, and obviously I'm getting it today. In a group, I'm one of 2 Niner fans in a group chat, 10 Eagles fans. So, I mean, I'm in New Jersey, so like that's kind of the area that I'm in. And this game says more about the Eagles' inability to blow out the Niners to a point where it's embarrassing, really embarrassing, 50-something, 40-something to like 7, and more about the Niners' tenacity to stay in the game. Like, it really is. Like, I know we're all sad. It sucks. But like, I'm prouder of this team today than I was in the morning. Like, right now, it's 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. I'm proud to be a 49ers fan. Like at no point am I like, these guys are fucking terrible. You know, I can't. There's no one on the team that I'm like, you know.
Yeah, it was amazing to see this team. It was a great run, but man, I wanted them to win a Super Bowl so bad. Like, as much as proud as I am of this team, because I feel the same. I'm proud of them. I'm devastated too, man, because that was just shitty.
Someone said moral victory ass takes SMH.
No,
well, thank you, Dre Salonga.
You know the vibes.
Yeah, I know the vibes, dude.
Rohan, what you got? You got anything left?
Yeah, I mean, now we do turn to the offseason, unfortunately, right? And there are a lot of questions. Number one, Brock Purdy's health. Is this going to be a Tommy John surgery situation? Because if it is, then it's really unfortunate, and I really don't like. I mean, it's just super unfortunate in this situation, because if Purdy does have Tommy John surgery, that's going to take at least 9 months to recover. Yeah. Takes him out for the entire. Trey Lance goes as QB1 automatically. Just even though he isn't even healed, he's automatically QB1 just because of that, right? And so I think that's a situation that you have to talk about. The 25 free agents, how are the 49ers going to handle that? Do they have enough cap space to figure out a solution to retaining some players? Are they going to bring in other guys? Because their number one pro personnel guy, the guy who has really helped them with scouting and evaluating players like Charvarius Ward, Ray-Ray McCloud to add to the team, is Rand Carthen, who is now the current member of this, the current GM for the Tennessee Titans. So how do the 49ers kind of pick up in that department? Who replaces Carthen? Those executive talks, but also DeMeco Ryans. He's going likely to the Houston Texans. How do the 49ers, who's the next guy, and who do they lose? Because they're going to lose some assistants likely, because DeMeco Ryans, with being such a hot commodity, he's likely going to bring who he wants to bring.
100%. They're going to take people like Salah did and McDaniel and everybody does. And Rand Carthon's a huge loss. You're right. And that's why I made that comment earlier of DeMeco. That's to me, that's one of the biggest losses, because we're not only going to lose him, he's going to pull people. And you said free agents, right? We have 25 free agents. He's going to take some of those guys with him to Houston. It's inevitable. Yeah. So it's going to be a weird, crazy offseason. But you know what? We got 9 months to talk all about it. And I'm sure you guys are going to be joining me throughout the offseason. I know Tiago's got to go. I'm going to let him say his last few things. But real quick, my boy, thank you for hopping on today. You're always welcome throughout the year, through this offseason.
Thank you.
Hop on, man. So
thank you. It's funny, Raj, when I started the pod, you were the first person I wanted to reach out to. And I was like, oh my God, it's so insurmountable. When you came on, you were great, dude. And we become good friends. So like, thank you very much for having me on. Rohan, dude, I think I follow you on Niner Twitter. I think you're awesome. It was awesome getting to meet you. I'll be, and on StreamYard. I'll say this. I think the future is bright. I think a lot of questions will be answered this offseason, right? In terms of, like, to your point, like we have a lot of things to kind of address, but the 49ers are in a lot better position than they were with Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula. Just remember that era. Okay. Like, we'll be okay. So guys, have a great night. Thank you so much. And go Niners always.
Appreciate you, my man. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Bye.
Well, here we are, Rohan. You got your prediction came through. I'm sick. I'm really upset.
I'm
but,
not happy about it either, but you know,
you know,
it is
uh,
what it is.
it is what it is. What's your next move? What you thinking? Off season is gonna be crazy. One thing I want to add, to the D'Amico Ryan's thing. If he leaves, we're not gonna get Vic Fangio because the Dolphins signed him
Correct.
today. That's cute.
Correct.
That's cute to me. So honestly, I don't even know who the heck we could sign for DC on right now. Like I really don't. Who do you have any people in mind off the top?
I do, and I actually, surprisingly enough, a lot of people were on the Fangio train. I
Mhm.
wasn't as it's not that I wasn't as high on the Fangio train. I just don't know if the 49ers were going to do it. First of all, he wanted to be the highest paid defensive coordinator. I don't think that's the biggest issue, but
Mhm.
overall, with how late the 49ers are going to join the Fangio race and with the amount of interested suitors, I didn't think that the matchup was going to be a possibility. A couple of weeks ago, January 11th, I believe. So 2 weeks ago, I wrote about 6 candidates who could replace D'Amico Ryan's, and there are 3 internal ones and 3 external ones. The internal ones, safeties coach Daniel Bullocks. He's the youngest internal option. That makes sense. Obviously, huge part in the development of Talanoa Hufanga. A nice role there. He's 39. He could be that next kind of D'Amico Ryan's type of guy. You know what I mean? Another guy is linebackers coach Johnny Holland. Although it doesn't seem like Johnny Holland might be that guy in terms of I don't think he wants to be more than a linebackers coach. I think he's just content with kind of what he is. And then the third guy is Corey Unlin, who D'Amico Ryans could take to be his defensive coordinator in Houston or even Bullocks. We'll see what happens there. External options, I think there are a couple of good ones, but Jim Schwartz is gone. The guy who I will bring up, very underrated option that I'm sure not many people know. Baltimore Ravens passing game coordinator Chris Hewitt. I think that he should be a viable candidate. I don't think the 49ers will. I don't know if the 49ers will go in that direction, but I think he'd also be a viable candidate. But there are options, and one thing that I'm not too worried about is the coaching situation.
Okay.
Kyle Shanahan has done a phenomenal job when it's come to evaluating and scouting head coaches or on his coaching staff. Really, almost every move for his head coaching staff has been spot on. Brian Greasy, we talk about.
Yeah.
We talk about D'Amico Ryans, Robert Saleh. We talk about guys like Mike McDaniel. I mean, the amount of people that have come from this tree that have been successful, it's very well worth noting that.
Good deal. Yeah, no, and that's true because it's interesting because again, there's a lot of candidates. I'm glad that you have some insight. We'll have to shoot through those throughout the next couple of weeks because if I'm a betting man, I think D'Amico leaves. I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. I hope he says hell no to the Texans and turns it down and pulls a Mike McCarthy and stays with the Niners again because searching for a coach again is going to be tough. But you're right. You made a good point. Kyle Shanahan has made a lot of good signings at the coaching position, and he keeps developing his coaching tree. So we'll see. But real quick, my boy Locksmith hopped in live. I know it's kind of a bittersweet night. Lock, how you feeling tonight, man?
It's rough, man. It's rough. Rough. I mean, what else can you say, man? It was a tough way to go out. This was just like worst case scenario. I mean, right? There's no other way. I mean, what more could go wrong? You know what I mean? Like, you lose your third string quarterback. Yeah, it was just rough, man. It was just rough. You know, you don't look, if I said to myself, we lose this game, it's fine. If you lose because the better team won. And the better team, I do think the better team won. They were the better team tonight. But you want to give yourself a chance. You want to see, you know what I mean? It's like to have your chance taken away like that because of an injury early on, and you can't really do anything after that. It's just heartbreaking, but it's no excuses. If the offensive line, I believe that was from the right side, from Brock's right side. If he doesn't get in there, if they protect him, which has been our weakest point all year long, that right side. And if that right side doesn't, if they don't get in there and get that penetration, then maybe he doesn't get hurt. You know what I mean? That's something you can control. I know people dwell on the catch. Whether that was a catch or not catch, that was a big. I'm sure you probably already talked about it. People already asked about it, but that's neither here though. Those type of things happen in football games. You know what I'm saying? It would happen real fast. As soon as I saw it, I was like, that's not a catch. That's not a catch. Check it. You know what I mean? But they're, coaches are in game time decisions. It's early on. You don't think your quarterback is going to get hurt that quickly, So it was just but I think the better team tonight won because they got pressure on the quarterback first play out of the game, and they got to him. And he wasn't able to withstand it. He got hurt.
Yeah, no, 100%. It was tough, and that early part of that game, so many things went wrong, and we just couldn't catch. We couldn't take momentum out of it. That's what we talked about earlier. And I think the Eagles, we knew they were going to come in with momentum, the home crowd, and we talked about this during the week. Me and you, Locke, is could we take that momentum out of them? Can we get a play that can take that away from them? And we never got that momentum shifter. We kind of got one when CMC got that touch. I felt like the momentum might have turning.
We were tied up. Yeah.
But right after that, three penalties led to a touchdown for the Eagles. So they seized momentum. We never took away momentum. And again, losing Brock, we talked about was definitely tough. He couldn't throw the ball. We talked about this earlier. I want to get your opinion on it. Do you think the window for the 49 Super Bowl window is closed, or do you think it's still open?
It's still open. I mean, you still got Kittle coming back. You still got Debo. You still got most of your offense coming back. Christian McCaffrey gets a full year in the system. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully we can, guys are looking. But, that defense is going to be tough. I mean, somebody you're going to have to let, one of those linebackers. I mean, Greenlaw's there. Warner's there. So, I think most of the guys are there. I mean, Jimmy Ward, they're probably going to have to let go. You probably get Emmanuel. And if you have a healthy Emmanuel Sanders, you know what I mean? My mind is going, bro. I'm so depressed and upset right now.
Emmanuel Mosley.
If you have a healthy E-man on that other side, that changes things. Diamador stepped up. I think he played pretty good today, man. I mean, the defense held. I mean, they weren't getting those big plays. You know what I mean? They just, we just couldn't do anything. So I think that, I think the window is not closed. I still think that Kyle Shanahan is the best, if not the best coach and best play caller in the game. I have no queries about that. Now, what's the defense going to do? He seems, like you said earlier, he seems to always kind of get the right people in the right position to kind of keep things going. So we'll see. I mean, nobody knew who DeMeco Ryans was before last year. We all thought the defense was going to take a huge step back. So we'll see what happens. A lot of those guys are still going to be there. So I don't think the window is closed, but you can't, it's gonna be tough. It's always tough every year.
100%. It's just a tough loss because I feel like we had such a good team, and I thought we had the team that could come in and pull the upset off tonight. But I went through every emotion, and I'm back at this sadness. I'm at this sadness. But yeah, man, it is what it is. Off season started. Next week's the Pro Bowl.
Man, the off season started in the third quarter. I just I can't look.
No, man. The moment Josh Johnson came in, I was getting my off season content locked and loaded. I was
just like, oh, it's over. Yo, shout out to any Philadelphia Eagle fans. Congratulations, y'all won. You know what I'm saying? Enjoy it, man. I'm not one of those people. Look, at the end of the day, it's a game. We love our teams. I'm happy y'all, y'all was able to get it going. And Jalen Hurts seems like a good dude, man. He seems like a good, focused young man. He deserves to play. He deserves to, so good for him, man. You know what I'm saying? Good for him. And it just stings, man, because we could have got it done. It was there for us. It just, our Achilles heel, it was there. It happened the way most people thought it would happen. We were hoping that we were able to stop that and show people that what we're really made of. But I think just too many injuries, too many different things went against us to withstand that. And you're on the road. You know what I mean? And you're in the road. Like Josh Johnson looked just completely shook. I mean, it was like he got through to the Lions, bro. Like
he didn't expect to be in that moment. Like you probably, if I'm Josh Johnson and all of a sudden Kyle's like, yo, you got to go in there. I'll be like, yo, Brock, yo, you sure? I'd be like, I would have been like,
but you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, look, Josh Johnson was off the street. I mean, they got him, you know what I mean? I just think Kyle is the coach of the year. I know people are down. I mean, to get to the NFC Championship with your third string quarterback, bro. I mean, I just, what else can you do? I don't know. What are the sentiments? How are people feeling about the coaching?
I mean, it was kind of up and down, but when Smitty came in here, he blasted him, and me and Rohan gave him our we gave him a piece of our 1-2, and I think most people feel
what was the criticism on Smitty? What was the criticism on the coaching?
No, Smitty. He was talking about the Debo stuff. He was talking about Trey Lance. You know, Smitty.
He doesn't think Kyle is a good head coach. He thinks he's a good OC.
Yeah, basically, sum it up. Yeah.
What does that mean? Who's a good head coach?
That's the question. He thinks Mike McDaniel. I know many times he's said that. I mean, he's texted me. We offline. He's like, Mike McDaniel's the guy. Look at him. He's always aggressive. He went and got Vic Fangio today. Like, he thinks Mike McDaniel's so good. That's why I brought up that example that Mike McDaniel's also on the couch, and the Niners beat Mike McDaniel. So
yeah, like I don't understand that we're in the NFC Championship.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. Like, what are you talking about, Mike? I mean, so if you don't win the Super Bowl, you're a bad coach?
I think that's his thing. And it takes some coaches a long time. Andy Reid took him many years to get to that point. But
I think if the Niners move on from Shanahan, and I think it's going to be one of those things that they regret. You know what I mean? But, maybe it works out for the better. Maybe, I don't think that I wouldn't do that. I don't think that's the case. But maybe, you find somebody else to galvanize these guys or something like that. I don't think that's the case. I just think it's just unfortunate, man.
It's just an unfortunate loss. And the better team won today. It hurts to say that. Like, it literally hurts to say it. But today, the better team, and we were not.
Hurts did not make any mistakes.
No,
he almost. I mean, I wanted him to get that safety. Oh, when he got tackled. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, little things like that. We just couldn't get any of those things to go. You know what I mean? Any of those things to happen where it's just like, if something like that happens, then maybe Josh Johnson gets a little confidence and he feels a little more relaxed. Like, oh, I got some breathing room. You know what I mean? And, you make some things happen where he's not too nervous and then the defense takes over, but it never could do it because guess what? Jalen Hurts he didn't make mistakes. He did what he was supposed to do. He knew that 49ers were shorthanded and on the offense. The coach made the right calls and we just weren't able to do it,
I don't know, man. What say you, Rohan? You've sat patiently waiting and you've digested everything. What you got anything else to say?
I don't know, man. It's a tough one because obviously the defense, they play like the game plan was good. If you had an offense that was competent enough with a competent quarterback, then you would have battled. You would have battled in this game. Unfortunately, you did not. The Eagles scored 31 points, but it didn't feel necessarily like they scored 31 points. I mean, 7 came off the botch snap from Josh Johnson, and overall 31 points is still pretty. I mean, if you take that away, 24 points. 24 points is a good defensive performance against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they played well, and I think that the 49ers would have had a good chance because obviously their defense was on the field for so long with the amount of offensive issues that they had that it would have been a different outcome likely. Not necessarily maybe in who won, but in the score for sure. It would have been a much closer game. Unfortunate to see it this way. Hoping for the best for Purdy in the news tomorrow, and that it's not a UCL. It's not a Tommy John, only like a UCL sprain that'll take a couple of weeks, and maybe hopefully no surgery. But we'll see. We'll see, man. It's gonna be a fun off season. Lots of questions and lots of answers are coming.
No doubt, man. I guess I'll wrap it up. Appreciate you for hopping on, Rohan. As always, I know we're gonna be locked in this off season with everything. I'm sure you'll be on here. I'm sure I'll be on with your show. But you hit the nail on the head, man. It was just one of those things where we couldn't overcome all the issues. The defense played as hard as they could, and we shot ourselves in the foot, with the penalties, like you said, Rolak, and, just too much unsurmountable issues. And it's an unfortunate feeling. We don't want to be at this point. I feel like my overall assessment after this night and talking to everybody is it feels like we got hit we got gut punched, man. We just got hit in the stomach and got the wind knocked out of us, and we were never able to recover. Like you said about Josh Johnson, is he was like stressed, man, and they never gave him that moment to be comfortable. And he was playing. He was already going to be stressed coming in to that moment. Like he's in the link, a journeyman quarterback through his whole career, and now he's at the stage and he's like, oh shit, he was probably had shit stains in his pants, kind of vibe. You know what I mean? Like that's probably what Josh Johnson was under. He was probably like, oh my God, what the hell? So it's tough. I feel bad, but hey, we've been here before. We've chased that 6 trophy so many times. We've come close, and it happened again. One day we'll get to that ring. I don't think the window is completely closed, but it does get harder because, again, we do have some free agents that we may not be able to get everybody back. We're going to lose some coaches. But this team, this franchise, this front office, they've done a great job over the last several years, and they've put together a hell of a team, a hell of a locker room. They've built great young talent. They got a lot of draft picks, and I'm confident that they'll be able to get back and build another winning season. Somebody in the comments earlier, I think it was CMAC, he says, they got to get off to better starts early in the season. 100%, they need to get off to better starts in the season. Like as great as they finished, they have to start strong, and I think that will really help them as the season goes. Because who knows, if the 49ers would have had the number 1 seed this year and had a home field advantage tonight, it may have been a different story, going into that hostile part.
It would have been totally different.
Yeah.
That's why people are like, oh, I'm like, look, you want that number 1 seed. Like, if you can get that, you don't want to have to go all the way over there. It was possible, but it just makes it that much tougher. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's tough, man, that travel. And again, we played so many games in a row at home, and then we had to go to the link, and that's tough, man. It was definitely tough. I'm not going to blame it on playing on the road because you can win on the road. The Niners have done it before, but it does change things up. I mean, if we would have been home, it's a whole different story. You feel a little bit more comfortable at home. The vibe's a little different. You got your fans screaming your name, so it definitely was not ideal, but I definitely feel like getting a better start to the season needs to happen a lot because I don't want to be again next year like, oh my God, here we are 3-4, 3-5. Can the Niners turn it around? I hate that feeling. Like, dude, when that happened again this season, I was like, oh God, here we go.
Here we go.
And it was an amazing run. Like, it was so cool every week. Like, oh my God, this win streak. But at some point, the pressure mounts. Like, can you keep winning?
But you know what, Raj? That's one thing that I do put on Shanahan and the organization.
Okay.
I think that, and I've said this before, and I know everybody may not agree with me, but I don't like how they handle QB situation. I would have did things differently, but I feel like you just make a choice and you stay. I think this goes all the way back to last year with not naming Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo the starting QB. Oh, we haven't named this. Like, yo, if Jimmy's the starting QB, make him the starting QB. You know what I'm saying? If Trey's the QB, like, I just feel like you got to do that because what happens is you lose games early on because the QB is trying to do shit that's out of his element. So then he gets hurt and then he has little nagging injuries. Then you bring another guy in, then he gets hurt. He's trying to do too much. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I just feel like that's a problem. And then the same thing happens this year. Oh, well, then you don't do this, you don't do that. I mean, you're glad you have Jimmy G, but if that's the case, Jimmy G got you to the NFC Championship, then you start off with Jimmy G. You say he's your starting quarterback and you let Trey earn his way in. You know what I mean? Like, you figure it out. I don't like the QB, all this kind of shit. I just feel like it costs you games early on.
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts.
No,
personally, if I can add, I do disagree a little bit. I understand where you're coming from, Locksmith. I do, because obviously it's frustrating, right? To hear, oh, we don't know who's going to start. We don't know what the thought process behind it is. To me, 2 years ago when Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance were there, very interesting situation with the way that they looked for Stafford, looked even for like guys like Andy Dalton potentially as a bridge quarterback, and then ended trading 3 first-round picks for Lance. But the way that it actually unfolds when it comes to practice and all, I didn't mind it 2 years ago because you have a quarterback competition, and I think quarterback competition is very healthy. By instilling a competition, you get the best out of both players. I think that that's valuable, especially in that situation, not only for your starter, who was expected to be Jimmy Garoppolo by the way practices went, but also for your rookie to see how the other plays, to kind of learn from each other. And I think that that's important. Last year, though, I thought that they handled it fine because they adamantly said multiple times that Trey Lance was the starter. Even when they brought back Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance was the starter. And the way that you saw in practice in training camp or in OTAs you saw it was very clear that Trey Lance was the starter. So to me personally, I do disagree a little bit. I can understand where you're coming from, but I think that the way that they handle it is fine. And I think this year, unfortunately, it's going to be similar to 2021 because you have two quarterbacks capable of potentially winning a starting job in Lance and Purdy, albeit if Purdy doesn't have to take surgery and doesn't take more time off. I think it's important for that competition to be there and not just to grant the starting job to one person and really just say you're the starter and have the other person be the backup. I don't think that that's necessarily the best way for competition.
I agree, but Trey, well, look, I'm not going to harp on that. I'm going to say this. We keep losing. I mean, it didn't. What team wins that way? What team goes into the goes into the offseason not knowing who their QB is, and then they win the Super Bowl? I understand that theoretically that sounds good.
Okay.
But it just, you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't, like, because you're doing too much. You know what I mean? You're trying to earn your spot. So you're coming out, like Jimmy G is.
I think that's more fan talk than actually what happened. So I don't think you're trying to do too much to win your spot. Once they've cemented a starter, they haven't gone back and said the other guy is going to be the starter after that. Once they've cemented it, unless injury, the other guy has not replaced. I think that's more fan talk. That's my personal opinion. I think it's more fan talk.
I think what Locke's going at, and I kind of feel this, and I agree with a lot of what you said, Rohan, and I think this is kind of where Smitty's kind of argument comes into play with Kyle. It's and again, here we are. It's another offseason. We're going to be talking about the quarterback as the headline again for another year. Like I see where Locke's coming from is let's just say here's the starting quarterback. There is no issue because
you just roll with it.
And just roll with it. But there is like all off season you're going to be talking mentally. That's got to hurt Trey. That's got to hurt Brock or whoever Jimmy, whatever over these years, because they're talking about it. And then when the other players get interviewed, when Debo, when Kittle, when those guys, Fred Warner, when they're getting interviewed, what does the media ask them? They ask them about Trey Lance, Brock. They don't want to. Then they have to.
They want to talk about They want to talk about the opponent.
They want to talk about them or the opponent or something else. But it's always got to be the quarterback. And it's like, of course, they're going to give the answer of, "Oh, he's great. We love him." He's because they feel that's their teammate. They're going to support the guys. But it becomes like I feel it does get exhausting as a fan and as someone that covers the team. And
anybody that's played sports, bro. If you feel like you got this guy breathing down your neck, especially when you're the quarterback, I can understand if you're offensive lineman or defensive player, you're battling. When you're the quarterback, you're the leader. If the teams don't look, that year, not this year, but the year before, Jimmy was running head first into the end zone trying to get first downs because he was fighting for his spot. He wanted to show, like, look, I'm tough. Like, that's not you don't want your quarterback doing that. You want your quarterback, look, we got this. I can command these guys. We're going to do what we need to do. When you have to prove that you're that guy, when you constantly got to prove, that's not a good thing. You got somebody breathing down your neck. That's just my opinion. I understand it's competition. Nah, man. You know who's the guy. And if we keep on kidding ourselves with this situation, and we'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
It's tough. I just hope that I want them to nip it in the butt, but they're not. Rohan's 100% right. We're going into this training camp with a battle. It's
another battle.
No, 100% we are. And Rohan said this tonight. Hopefully Brock Purdy doesn't need Tommy John surgery because there's a real threat that he might have, like, a UCL injury like Nick Mullins a few years ago. Like that's a legit threat. I pray that he does it because that's tough, man. He just started this year as a rookie and he's got a bright future ahead of him. That would be a very, very bad injury to deal with, So we'll see what happens, fellas. Yeah. Any final words? I'm going to wrap it up here. And I appreciate you guys. I'll probably be live a little later on Instagram, but I'm going to take a little breather and clear my head. This has been a very long day. It's been a stressful day, but hopefully next year we're sitting here talking about Super Bowl instead of another NFC Championship loss.
Hey, man, I still love the season, man. I'm happy that we got this far. We appreciate your content, what you do, Raj. I know we follow it, man. And, it was still a great year. And, I know it's a letdown. You want to get to the Super Bowl, but shit, look, man, we had how many weeks? 18, 20 weeks of football that we got to enjoy 49er football. and we hoped it would have been one more week, but we don't get it. So I'm still grateful for it. It was a great, entertaining season. This team is they didn't let us down. They just came up short at the end. So,
Sure, man. It was a fun year. Rohan, any parting words here? I appreciate you real quick. Thank you, Rohan, for always hopping on, answering the call. I hit you up this today. I put you on short notice. You hopped in. You're killing it. You got a bright future. I know you're doing a lot of work, and you're always amazing. So I thank you for hopping on, man.
Hey, I appreciate you, and I appreciate obviously you bringing me on. Locksmith, good to talk to you for the first time on a live show as well. Appreciate you. And no, I mean it's gonna be a fun off season again. A couple of questions that need to be answered, like I said before, but I'm excited. That's the way you got to go into it. I'm excited to see what comes with the 49ers and the questions, how they answer them.
It's gonna be a crazy offseason. Locke, always appreciate you hopping in. I can't wait for next year. You got more bars to make, but people were saying that your bars were jinxing them. I don't think so because I don't. Again, my take was the fans don't have any bearing on this event. Someone asked me earlier. This is my last thing. This is my last thing I'll bring up. They said, what did you think about the 49ers fans putting the Rocky shirt on or the shirt on Rocky? The fans were just having fun, man. They were living their best life. The fans weren't the ones that went out there and played the game. So
not the ones that caused whoever that was who got beat on that.
What Mike McGlinchey? What are we talking about? What play?
Was it Glincy or was it McGlinchey or Brunson? Whoever was up on that
right side. Burford on that right side. I'm gonna have to go back to the film, but it did look like McGlinchey got just slobber knocked on that.
So there you go.
That's it, man. I appreciate you guys.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Appreciate you, bro. You guys be safe.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a good rest of your night. All right, ladies and gentlemen. That's it for tonight. We'll probably be live a little bit later on Instagram, but I'm gonna take a little breather, take some rest here. I want to say this real quick before I hop off. Honestly, man, this has been a long season, a fun season, and for me, it's a lot of work, but I love it. I truly, truly, truly appreciate all the support. Hopefully, I can really get my YouTube where I want it to be. There was a couple of blunders over the year, with when they disabled it, but then I got it back and this and that and the other. But yeah, I appreciate everybody for sticking with me and on all my platforms, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all that good stuff. So it was a hell of a season. We didn't get to where we wanted, but I truly want to say thank you to every single one of you that supports me, even all the fans of other teams. I love you guys for hopping in and engaging and dropping stuff in the chat. And sometimes you hate us, sometimes it is what it is. Shout out to the Eagles, man, because you know what? At the end of the day, Niner fans wish we were all Eagle fans. Where the Eagle fans are today, we don't wish we were Eagles fans, obviously. We wish we were where they're at because we want to be going to the Super Bowl. But I love you guys so much, and let's have a good off season. Let's see what happens. Let's hope that next year is better than it was this year, and we finish the quest. It's painful. Did I pay the Eagles fan yet? Not yet. I haven't even talked to him yet. I want to, again, clear my mind. But, yeah, you guys have a good rest of your night. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. All that good stuff. And we'll catch you a little later. I love you. Have a good night. Bang, bang. Niner gang.